My name is Rob Altamont, VP of Marketing for Hirekos Golf, and I'll be your moderator for today's Hirekos webinar titled The Basics of Gripping and Regripping. The webinar will be led by Hirekos Technical Director Jeff Summitt. Jeff has worked in all facets of club making and repair since 1984 and has devoted the past 20 years to researching, testing, and analyzing thousands of different golf shafts. He has compiled his findings and research into the Dynamic Shaft Fitting Index, which is featured in the best-selling book, The Modern Guide to Club Making and Total Club Fitting in the 21st Century. Additionally, he has authored the annual Dynamic Shaft Fitting Addendum, which instructs club fitters in the proper fitting and selection of shafts. Both books are available for sale online at hirekosgolf.com. Let's get a few housekeeping items out of the way first. Your audio settings are muted, which means we cannot hear you, so don't worry about coughing or phones ringing in the background because no one can hear it. If you look at your GoToWebinar dashboard located in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the box labeled Question. If you expand this box, you'll see an empty space for you to type any questions or problems you may have throughout the webinar. Excuse me, but because we have limited time, we are saving the question and answer period for the end when Jeff has completed his talk. Feel free to type any questions you may have, and I'll make sure, time permitting, that we will get to them at the end. If for any reason you must leave the webinar, don't worry, it's being recorded and you'll be sent an email with a link to the MP3 and slideshow of the complete webinar. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Hirekos Golf's Technical Director, Jeff Summitt. Take it away, Jeff.
Thank you, Rob, and thank all of you for taking the time to attend today. In our last webinar, we discussed epoxies and how to properly measure, mix, and apply the right amount to avoid potential breakage and reduce waste. Unlike some of our other webinars, this one is on basic gripping and regripping and is not necessarily in the sequential order in the assembly process. The reason is many individuals are first exposed to club making by regripping their own clubs. With relatively little tools, time, and knowledge, someone can rejuvenate their existing clubs and help lower their scores. You see, worn or slick grips can cost you valuable strokes. Think of it the same way as putting new tires on your car when the tread is getting bald and unsafe. New tires not only give you safety of mind, but better performance. Golf grips are made of materials that age and wear over time. They naturally degrade from exposure to heat and sunlight, as well as the dirt and oils from your hands. While proper cleaning can prolong the life of a grip, there's only so long the grip can last. Softer grips, such as those made of polyurethane, will tend to wear quicker than a regular rubber grip, and the more expensive corded grips will last the longest. Avid golfers will usually regrip their clubs at the beginning of each year, while others will elect to regrip every 2 to 3 years based on their amount of play. Any club making or repair shop offers regripping as one of their services, and usually the going rate is about $3.50 per grip for the labor plus the cost of the grip. If you were to look at regripping 14-year-old clubs, the labor alone would be $49. This is why so many individuals elect to do the job themselves if they consider themselves handy. Grips can range from 79 cents each, like Hirekos house-branded Karma grips, to some cord models that are approaching $8 each, while the average grip may be in the $3 to $3.50 range. The very basic supplies can be acquired for about $10. So when you consider what the average golfer invests in their clubs, new grips are a relatively inexpensive proposition. This webinar will go over how to properly regrip a club and provide the basic knowledge to properly install a new grip. We won't get into the more complicated subject on understanding the grip sizing charts until the October 22nd webinar. Well, regripping requires one to remove an existing grip, hence the name. And believe me, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. The method I want to show you can be laid out into 4 steps: clamp, cut, heat, and peel. I've witnessed many different techniques over the year, and some of which I want to pass on, which I feel are the easiest and safest methods to remove a grip and to protect the shaft. One of my fellow colleagues used to, what I'll refer to as the West Virginia method, based on his general location he came from. He could remove a grip and install a new one without the use of a vise and somehow get the grip on straight each and every time. he had adapted a procedure that worked based on the space at hand, or the lack thereof, which was his college dorm room. While he was very efficient through lots of practice, I certainly tell those starting out to use a vise, as this will make things a lot easier. Not only will you need a vise, which you can often get locally dirt cheap, but you also need a small vise clamp to protect the shaft. Hirekos sells a vinyl shaft clamp for $1.75, and this will last a long, long, long time. First, you want to slip the vinyl shaft clamp over the shaft and then inside the jaws of the vise, just a couple inches below the grip. You'll want to clamp tight enough where the shaft won't slip, but avoid clamping so tightly that you'll crack the shaft, as in the case of very thin-walled graphite and even steel shafts. You must realize that manufacturers will not warrant shafts that are defective due to any excessive clamping pressure. In those cases, not only will you need to re-grip the club, but now you'll need the much more costly reshaft job to do as well. Once the shaft is safely clamped, we're on to our next step. Let me wait for the slide here to turn over. Okay. The second step involves cutting the grip off. By far the safest method utilizes a hook knife blade. These can be obtained at your local home improvement or hardware store, and they could fit in a variety of different utility knives. Most likely you'll have to buy a minimum of a pack of 5, but they may be only like $5 a pack, so it won't break the bank. Plus you can use them elsewhere around the home or shop. When you go to cut the grip off, don't, and I repeat this, don't cut the very back or the bottom of the grip. Why, you ask? We'll explain the grip's anatomy a little bit later, but the grip may have an internal rib where it's thicker than the rest of the grip, and it's just easier to cut through the path of least resistance. What you want to do is put the hooked part of the knife blade, starting at the mouth or the small end of the grip, and pull along the entire length of the grip. You may actually have to draw the knife blade through the same slit a time or two, depending on how old and thick the grip is, or how dull the blade is. Speaking of which, if you get old grips to be removed, you know, the ones that appear to be vulcanized on the shaft, then removal will be much more time consuming. Instead of simply cutting the grip with the hook knife blade, you may have to scrape the grip off with a heavy-duty utility knife. Chances are, if the grip is that dry rotted, it'll be attached to a steel shaft where you're not in fear of damaging the shaft with the hook knife blade or with the knife blade itself, like you would a graphite shaft. If you decide to do a lot of volume regripping, you could use something a little bit more heavy duty than a hook knife blade in your utility knife. We do offer something called the grip rip, where you slip the grip inside and then pull the club. The blade is hidden within the grip rip for your safety, and you get the extra leverage of grabbing onto the head. You'll still need to peel the grip off, but a good chunk will be already removed with the extra large blade. These run about $110. Once the grip is cut with the knife, what you want to do is just grab what you can at the mouth of the grip and start to peel back off the shaft, just like a banana. Oftentimes the entire grip will come right off with only a little amount of effort. Now that we got the grip off, our next step is equally important. You want to have a nice clean surface for the new tape. So you want to remove the tape that's on the shaft if at all possible. Most likely there will be some grip tape remaining after the grip is removed from the shaft. If you're lucky, the tape will peel off with little effort as well. You don't want to leave the old solvent-based tape on the shaft before installing a new grip, and here's the